Hi everybody, I am happy to be with you in this session. COVID-19 has clearly shown us that it has a natural and direct impact not only on human well-being and health, but also on economy that rely on digital transformation. Therefore, we need a holistic approach consisting in a new, sustainable model innovation that explores the ways shaping the world. In the face of unexpected crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, we should remember we need to be ready for unpredictable events by working more global, creative, and human-friendly social innovation. Before the pandemic, globalization and the digital transformation already made businesses far more dynamic and unpredictable. In other words, today's hyper-connected world presents no guarantee that the future will resemble the past. In this respect, I would like to approach the forum's theme with three different pillars, which are integration, data governance, and digital protectionism. In this session, I will consider these pillars as building blocks of digital transformation and innovation in the post-pandemic era. Let me start with integration. By integration, I mean global interoperability relying on cross-border data flow, considering all safety criteria and regulations. Interoperability is a key to sustainable success of the ecosystems. Digital transformation settles on the interdependent economy, which requires business ecosystems by sharing the profits among all participating companies. Business ecosystems are dynamic and co-evolving communities of diverse actors. Digital business ecosystems create new value through increasingly productive models of collaboration and competition. Digital transformation cannot be successful without trust-based digital platforms whose building blocks are security, accountability, transparency, fairness, and ethics. Data is the operating currency of the digital platforms. Distributed peer-to-peer networks are the conduits by which data at digital platforms are transformed and transported. To make an analogy, we would say digital platforms are vehicles of data flow and consumption. Therefore, digital platforms will discover and expand to new digital markets since they bring on the process of collaboration, co-creation, and cooperation. By catalyzing the creativity and synergy with co-creation and collaboration, we would be laying the foundations of an intelligent society. The idea of an intelligent society with digital age requires a new approach consisting of technology, humanity, and the economy. All of these requires embracing openness. Openness is the only key that would help data flows and interoperability across borders. Thus, open innovation coming from openness doesn't only refer to free knowledge or technology, but also refers to collaborative networking on a global level. Open innovation will produce value by considering technological developments in the context of social welfare in the post-pandemic era. It is about bringing people, processes, policies, and technologies together to ensure value exchange across an ecosystem. If we are talking about open innovation, then we also need to consider data ownership and privacy. In the context of the digital ecosystems, data ownership and privacy are related to data quality. Therefore, poor and unknown data quality can cause larger scale problems that affect all ecosystem services and thus the entire reliability of the ecosystem. If we consider this from the perspective of health-related open data quality, it will require cooperation in setting standards for data quality and extracting relevant insights to policymakers on time. Therefore, the main priority in open data is to ensure the reliability of the data and the data source. At the moment, data quality standards and definitions are not yet clear. In post-pandemic era, the data quality assessment will be the most important issue. Identification of new quality assessment tools and methods to verify the quality of open data will affect the reliability of the digital ecosystem. Let's talk about the second pillar, which is the data governance. In the case of data governance, we need to focus on integration and orchestration in digital platforms to bring open data to the ecosystem. During the pandemic, we have realized that reliable, continuous, and accurate flow of information from authorities is quite important. Therefore, once again, I would like to emphasize the importance of data quality, privacy, and usability in the concept of data governance. Solutions for data governance in cross-border data flows enable us to create and maintain global value chains. Global value chains support almost all international trade and investment, but also global human health and well-being. The current shift in legislations toward increased privacy and user rights, along with increased user control and machine readability, must be considered when planning digital trade concepts with cross-border data flow. Privacy concerns on cross-border data flows leads us to digital identity. The fundamental solution for identity management, which requires a trusted third party that everyone finds reliable, can only be the government. Therefore, in the post-pandemic era, we will need a regulatory framework that creates incentives for data governance with a focus on privacy in a way not to prevent international trade. Let me also note briefly that if you look at the cross-border data flow and the emerging digital economy from the perspective of giant digital companies, we also face another phenomenon which we call digital data capitalism. Today, the third and the last pillar I want to talk about is digital protectionism. With the rise of the internet-based digital economy in the last decade, new problems have started to arise. How can we measure the value of an online free commodities such as Google Maps, Facebook interactions, smartphone apps, or YouTube videos? When digital products are available for free, they have no effect on GDP, despite the value generated by users. The first problem in measuring the value of digital product is the marginal cost of delivering them over the internet is close to zero. Online information can be updated anytime and can be accessed from almost anywhere in the world. But its price is often much lower compared to its physical counterparts. Without a valid tool to measure the value of the digital economy, how will policymakers manage it? GDP is one of the fundamental inventions of the 20th century, but there's some weaknesses. In particular, anything with zero price has exactly zero weight in GDP, whether it be an app on your phone or the air you breathe. The price of these digital commodities may be zero here, but digital giant companies are gaining a lot of value through them. Given the increasingly widespread economic and social role of data, its flow across borders have become a critical policy area affecting international trade and global economic growth. In most cases, data is provided free of charge by users of any online social network across borders. Therefore, they do not create any financial transactions in the country where the user is located. However, when these data points are combined with millions of other data from around the world, they form the basis of data analysis and therefore value creation. Here we are talking about an emerging digital economy that nation states cannot track and include in their GDP. The sanction power of nation states is limited by the capacity to control and configure data traffic. This power and the capacity may not necessarily be determined by law. In other words, digitalization and the digital economy have the potential to frustrate the written law rules on which nation states are built. Under these conditions, today's main problem is not about expanding the field of digitalization and digital economies. Today's main challenge is the question of how nation states can take a stand in the digital age shaped by digital data capitalism emerging from digital platforms of digital giant companies. Even though digital data capitalism seems to benefit from international deregulations, its survival depends on the nation states structuring the traffic of the data, namely the regulation of the digital economy. At this point, I would like to draw your attention to the digital protectionism, which is the natural result of digital data capitalism. Digital protectionism is a government policy that aims to localize and take measures on the data by taking control of the data flows in the international arena. All kinds of policies that regulate and block the international traffic of the data cause the digital giant companies' platforms not work or operate at low efficiency. Governments can adopt protectionist policies to reduce their dependency on digital companies that collect, store, and commoditize user data. Driven by such a policy, one of the steps taken in Turkey is the publication of information and communication security measures, with 21 articles published on July 6, 2019. Some of the measures are: use of domestic social media and communication applications shall be preferred in the public service offices. Operators authorized to provide communication services are obliged to establish an internet exchange point in Turkey. Measures shall be taken to make sure that domestic communication traffic, which needs to be routed domestically, is not taken abroad. We currently witness that strict inspection practices already spread all over the world, especially in the USA and European Union countries. Fines can be imposed if digital companies do not comply with the norms like intellectual property rights or anti-competitive measures that are stated in laws and regulations. For example, nearly 4.5 billion euros in penalties were imposed on Google by the European Commission in 2018. Digital protectionism is a natural reaction of nation-states to the conditions of digital data capitalism formed by giant digital companies. However, we should note that once digital protectionism begins, it can create an endless spiral of censorship and political pressure. Therefore, it is important to allow data to flow easily to take advantage of the benefits of the digital economy. It is important to ensure that the relevant earnings from open data flow should be fairly shared by the countries involved in creating value. This may require investigating new alternative approaches. Given current trends, it is not clear that open data flow and more access to data alone will help addressing the global digital inequalities. Last but not least, I would say that digital transformation doesn't mean to digitalize everything, but it is kind of a seamless and spontaneous convergence of life-critical ecosystems. It really means inspiring and connecting human intelligence and how the governments regulate and conserve resources within their own ecosystems. Over the next decade, one of the most prominent aspects of digital transformation will be the creation of vast, interconnected ecosystems enabled by industrial trusted platforms. My forecast on the new digital world is a heterogeneous environment based on the decentralization and federation of diverse competing entities and resources. Emerging technologies like AI and blockchain can provide new ways to embed data governance principles into the automated interactions of ecosystem participants. It might need a paradigm shift in the idea of intelligent society emerging in the digital age. However, transformation is always a grueling uphill battle against the status quo, pushing people beyond their comfort zone. Let me conclude by saying that we will need to conceive a joint vision on the path towards sustainability to cope with the digital transformation processes that are revolutionizing life, businesses, and society. Thank you for joining us today. I wish you all a successful conference.